All right, so yeah, prepping this, very simple, especially if you're doing PEX. It's really easy. There's no soldering. There's no real work involved with this in a lot of ways. So let me just take off this little plaster guard off of here. And so you can see that this has cold, hot, and then on the back indication, it says up and down. So obviously you want to make sure it's up for the shower head. And then if you don't have a tub port, I'd like that. It's really awesome that they actually send one of these. They send you a little cap with a rubber gasket on the bottom to cap this. So let's go ahead and prep this for the PEX. For the PEX adapters, you just need 1/2 inch male adapt or female adapters that you just thread on there. I would advise having some Teflon tape and then also some pipe sealant. The pipe sealant just kind of makes sure that everything is completely sealed. So let's go ahead and put our Teflon tape on first. Now, when you put Teflon tape on, you want to try to keep it flat. And you want to go down, you want to go around the fitting clockwise 4 to 5 revolutions. And so the reason you want to go clockwise is because when you thread this on, it kind of pulls everything together. If you went the other way, you would end up removing the Teflon tape off of the threads. So go on each one of these, 4 to 5 revolutions. Okay, and add a little bit of pipe sealant to each one of these over top of the Teflon tape. You don't need a lot. I'll just get you get a little bit, and it just kind of helps keep it all sealed. We'll go ahead and put our cap on the down arrow. Just make sure it's snug. Can remove the excess thread on all of our female adapters. You can just tighten it with the PEX in place, but with having the proper amount of sealant and Teflon tape on there, you're not going to have a problem. So very easy. Now we have our adapters for the PEX, and the rest of this is going to be really simple to install. Take a piece of block. You know, this is a 2x8. You can use a 2x6. That'd be sufficient. I mean, your main concern is just being able to screw this into place. So this is a regular 2x4 wall, and there's drywall behind here. This is just going to set right up against the back of that wall. You're going to set your valve into place, and you're going to be at the right depth. This is going to allow you to be able to be within 3/8 of an inch of whatever your towel thickness is. So looking at this, this is really going to give you the variance. This plaster guard here is basically the indication of where you want your finished wall to be, but you have all this flexibility within this same area. You can actually be back a little bit further and be fine. And in a lot of ways, it's a little bit safer in some ways to be behind the wall rather than too far out. The worst thing that can happen is just being too far out of the wall, and then your escutcheon plate won't cover. But if you just have a regular 2x4 wall, stick a 2x material to the back of the wall, that pushes us 2 inches back from the front of our framing. And then if we have inch and 1/8 worth of finished wall, we're going to be at a correct depth. You can actually even be 1.5 inches outside of this rough framing. Now, when you have a tub spout, there are some requirements of how far from the bottom of your valve to the bottom of where your tub support comes out. But since this is a shower, it's really whatever you want to do. I usually like to have mine around 45 to 48 inches, but it truly is up to you and what your tile design might be and what you're going to do. As long as that's back here, we're basically 2 inches behind our rough framing, and that's going to set us up for success on our valve. Okay, so 18 to the center, so that's right to the center. This little plaster guard is really made for thin walls, but it also helps to gauge the thickness of your wall. And your tile, as long as you're within 3/8 of an inch out or behind this plaster guard, you'll be in good shape. So as you can see, I'm about 1/4 inch, but by the time I get that thin set on there, yeah, I'm 1/4 inch. So by the time I get the thin set on, I'll be completely even with it. But again, I could be out 3/8 of an inch from the front of this and still be in good shape. So that's why I'm saying that you can pretty much just set this valve right on this 2x8 blocking, be in the right depth. You don't have any concerns about, you know, the thickness of your wall not working out. So this would need to be even with your rough framing or with your backer board if you have any for that. So a thin wall, it's a little bit more complicated, a little bit more accurate as far as depth, but when it comes to a tile installation, this doesn't get much more simple than this. Okay, so let's just go ahead and connect the rest of our pecs here. Okay, so as far as the shower head, it's kind of up to you on that as well, but typically I go about 82 inches. I think higher the better in a lot of ways. This is a drop ear elbow, so you can see it has the screws that you can connect to, and it has the female adapter for the shower head. But if you just make this like even with your rough framing, which is about 1 inch behind your rough framing, you should be in good shape. The only thing you don't want to do is have this too far out. You don't want to have this extending out past your tile work in any way. So if you keep it just about flush with your rough framing, you're usually in pretty good shape. Okay, 18. I'll just put a little adapter on here so we can test it. So one thing you really want to have on demo day is a couple of these shark bite caps. So this really makes it easy to turn back on the water, because we're going to be putting some drywall up, and I don't want to put actual valves on here or I won't be able to cut the drywall neatly around there. So these just simply slip onto that copper and allows you to get the water back on in the home. So highly recommend them having these on hand. Saves a lot of time. Now we can go ahead and test our shower head and make sure everything's functioning well. Very good. So we got the port on there. This is all full of water now. I would just keep that on for the duration of the project. Just make sure you don't see anything leaking before you put that backer board on. But thanks, HammerHead. Very easy rough in valve to install. Can't wait to get the trim on after the tile. This thing's going to be really awesome. All right, so now it's time to put the jewelry in. This is a very simple process of installing this, but this is really gonna set off the shower. So let's first put on our little cover plate, and you know, since this has the integral stops, make sure these are all the way out, so counterclockwise just until they stop. This is going to allow the water to be completely turned on. On the back here it has a rubber seal, and this gasket's sealing around the actual unit here. And it is definitely sealed. It's a little cold this morning, so that's... Okay, so basically thread that until this is nice and snug against the tile. So you can see here, there's no gap there, and everything's nice and sealed to that tile.
And it doesn't feel cheap.
No, it's all metal.
It's all metal.
Yeah, it's definitely nice.
Plasticky.
So we're going to show you how to adjust the temperature, but this thing just starts out. But we have to get the shower head in first so we can test the water. Because right now it's basically set right in the middle, so it's pressure balanced. And if you want to get it a little bit hotter, which I think most of you probably are going to want to do, we'll adjust to make it get hotter.
Oh, that's really nice. He has it engraved down here too. I like that. Sorry, I'm all about that. Actually looks really high end.
We actually got rather than just a regular arm, we actually got one that kind of raises up, because we got basically a rain shower head. So this is going to give you more of a downward motion, also raises it up a little bit. So before we put this on, you want to make sure you flush out the system. We're also going to test the water temperature so we can adjust the temperature, but you don't want to just add this right on, because if there's anything in the lines, because we did all that construction work, you'll just clog up the shower head. So make sure you flush it out first. This is going to get us to the stop. So when you turn this, so you can see how when I turn this to the clockwise, you have a little stop. This is stopping that from getting any hotter. So this is where you want to test it right off the bat, see what kind of temperature you're getting. So that's like 108. So that's not very warm. I mean, it's warm, but it's not what you want your shower to be. The sleeve comes out. So this is your stopper. So this is what's holding that pivot arm from moving any further. So if you turn it further clockwise, then you'll get hotter water. So if we move this clockwise, so if we move this, moving this way, we're going to get it hotter. And this allows me to turn this just a little bit more. All right, there you go. So you're getting about 120, 122. So really you want it, be under 100, around 120. And so that makes a really nice hot shower now. So now that we got that adjusted, that's pretty easy to adjust. I usually like to have it all the way up. I personally like to have the hot showers. But yeah, obviously you don't want to scald anybody. So if you have your hot water tank up to like 133 degrees, you're definitely going to want to adjust this to make sure it doesn't get too hot. I'm always a big one for a nice metal handle. I always hated having a plastic one, so this is definitely pretty nice. It's all brass. Now we can just set this on here. This does have a little rubber grommet for here. And then the really nice heavy duty 8-inch rain shower head. And just make sure that the rubber gasket's inside of there. You've got a little bit of Teflon tape here on the threads. Very nice.